will I look out or will I?
You're
just be
fine the
normal?
way you are.
Yeah.
You're fine the way you are, right?
Okay.
So we're live. We're live. We're
Okay,
live.
great.
Right. So Shirley, we're waiting to see if anybody's going to join us, and Paul from Kerry is with us. Good morning, Paul.
How are you, Paul? Another Paul.
That's
I have a
right.
lot of Pauls in my life.
Will you speak a bit loudly, please?
Okay, is this loud enough?
I think Paul will tell
Okay.
us in a second. Richard, hello.
Where's
hello,
Richard
all
from?
one word. Richard's in the UK. Richard's in the UK. Periscopiana Yando. It might be from Italy. I can't. Fortuna English. Stonehenge. Richard's in Stonehenge, right?
Okay.
Paul is definitely in Kerry. This is my good friend Shirley Gallagher. And as soon as we give people a chance to join. Hello, Mel Jones 1. KZLEMIR, hello. Be lovely if you can say where you are. Richard says hello, Shirley.
Hi.
Shirley.
Hi, Richard.
Richard's a good friend from Audioboo, by the way.
Okay.
A good friend from Audioboo.
I haven't used it in a while, actually.
This is the very first Periscope interview that Shirley and I have done. And Shirley, would you start by just introducing yourself? Can you just say in a few words something to let people know who you are, where you come from?
Okay. I am Shirley Gallagher. I'm currently living in Glanmire in County Cork, and I'm from Donegal, a little island called Arranmore, which is 11 o'clock on the map of Ireland, and Cork is at 6 o'clock on the map of Ireland. I'm a scientist. I'm a sustainability scientist who looks at climate change, low carbon economies, and how to drive that forward and how to kind of change the way we're living now. Ireland in particular is very heavily dependent on fossil fuels, and how can we transition to a low carbon economy, which is something that the European Union are talking about, but they're not really doing a whole lot about it. But they do have targets versus America and Australia, where they're tending to burn everything that they can. And there's a move forward now where we are looking at keeping coal, keeping oil, keeping shale in the ground, so that we don't go over our 2-degree limit, the 2 degrees Celsius in temperature change.
Shirley, before we get too much into the detail,
Yes.
Look, I do think I'm going to have to tell people that you're a star of a television program,
Oh, do.
right? Come on. Give it, and in fact, there are links. People
That's
can actually
right,
watch
yes.
you on TV.
Yes,
so
I'm currently on
let's-
TV.
Come on,
Yes.
tell people about Islanders.
Islanders. So basically, the fact that I'm from Arranmore Island, I spent a year on the island looking at ways on how to make it more sustainable. I'm involved in a European project on this side. So Richard Stern, another Richard, from TV3 in Ireland came and we spoke, and basically we engaged, and he spent a year and his crew filming Arranmore in County Donegal, Inishturk in County Mayo, which is, 9 o'clock on the map, and then Widdy down in Cork, which is 7 o'clock on the map. And they spent the year traipsing between the 3 islands and gathering stories, and there's a 4-hour documentary series, and the 3rd one is on this evening at 9 o'clock on TV3 in Ireland.
Lovely. Now look, to the people, those of you who are here listening, I'd be very grateful for questions for Shirley. Any questions you'd like to ask her. In the meanwhile, while you're thinking about your questions, I hope, Shirley, let me ask you, all this green stuff, it's very, very expensive, and, it's kind of, why not should we be bothered with that? All this scientific stuff, we'll all be dead by the time anything happens. Why should we bother?
Well, apparently not, Paul. The planet is warming up a whole lot faster, and things are changing a whole lot more than scientists have actually kind of figured out. So yes, I'd say it will happen in our lifetime, this climate change that we're talking about, the 2-degree change in temperature, if we don't do something soon. And what's happening is we've been carrying on, burning a lot of fossil fuel, but what's happening now is the BRIC countries, the Brazil, Russia, India and China, they're all catching up and they want to be as fossil fuel dependent as we are.
Okay, Richard wants to know in Stonehenge wants to know, how do we persuade the US to become green? How do we persuade the US?
I think we have to be successful in Europe in creating a low carbon economy. I think China are persuading the US to become green. They're one of the most sustainable countries now, because at one point China were building 2 coal-fired power stations a week. This was pre the 2008 recession, and then they can't breathe because of the pollution. So they've taken enormous steps in the last maybe year or two in creating a clean China, and they will persuade the US the way to go forward. And really, what I think, Richard, is begin at home. What can you do?
So Shirley, are you saying small local steps? Because there are lots and lots of people arguing in favour of grand policy. The EU should bring in all sorts of regulations. There should be fines for countries if they don't reduce their carbon footprint. So that should all be done at a macro level. Are you a proponent of local action or international action?
I'm a proponent of both. You do need both. You do need the locals to push the politicians. The politicians will give us what we want. And we're in a world that I don't like.
Okay, so what don't you like about the world? Give me some order of priority.
They're saying one thing and they're doing another. You know, they're kind of saying, oh, we need to reduce fossil fuel emissions, and then they're carrying on, you know, like, I mean, we're one of the biggest importers of oil. And you know, the steps taken, you know, aren't clear cut and so on. So with the local action, it is important to kind of, you know, look at what you actually do. I mean, I drive a car, you know, I always say I'm green with a small g, you know, but until it becomes affordable for me to buy a more effective form of transport, and I live in Glanmire, which, you know, it's quite necessary to have a car in Glanmire.
Well, tell me, when are you getting an electric bicycle?
Oh, I don't know.
No, Glanmire has a few hills.
I do talk about it. I do talk about it. I was talking about it when I ran Greenworks in 2010, and the notion that I would do it. But I'm very, very clumsy, so I don't know if I would be very cute on a bike at all. But yeah, no, it would be a good idea. I did actually run a project on an electric scooter, which was called Kicktrike, which is a German
Before you go
project.
into that, which is fascinating, I'll forget Richard's point.
Sorry.
Richard's point is that if they bring down the cost of electric cars, the masses will buy them. Is that true?
Well, that is absolutely true. But I suppose one of the issues with the electric cars is the battery. And, you know, like the battery power. And this is changing, but it's not quite there yet. And there's a guy in Dan, what's his second name? Dan Aris in Manchester, who's actually revolutionised a type of motor engine that's going to, it has like 200 miles to the gallon, and he's working on that now in Loughborough University. So, you know, it's looking at all these different models. His engine probably will go into a 1400cc car, and that'll help transition us to the low carbon economy.
Now, Richard wants to know, I have to keep interrupting you, otherwise we're not serving our audience.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Richard wants to know, where do we get our electricity from nowadays?
Well, in Ireland we get about 16% from wind, and then we've got coal and gas fired. We're basically converting a lot of our gas fired or our coal fired power stations to gas. So we're reducing our carbon that way, but not, you know, again, it's a transition period.
What about digging up the bogs and using the turf?
Well, we do that too. Yeah, we're kind of good at that.
And what about hydroelectricity?
We have a little bit of that. We've got some in Wicklow and Pullafoca, and we have in the Shannon. That was a quite remarkable achievement in the early
1929.
days of the state.
Yeah. My mother lived in a house quite near Ardnacrusha, And in order to build the hydroelectric plant, they put a what do you call it? A channel, a channel of water. What's that called?
A canal?
A what?
A canal?
A canal, yeah. They put a canal around it. And the level of the river dropped from about 9 feet, let's say, down to 4 feet. So it affected the number of salmon that people caught in the river. And since my grandmother used to let people out in for the summers with bed and breakfast, it had a major economic impact.
Oh, wow. Okay. And there is also another hydroelectric power initiative called the Spirit of Ireland. If you Google that, it's looking at basically using turbines, water turbines, and wind in conjunction, so that you use the wind to pull the water up the hill and then run HEP when there's no wind. And that's in a period of transition because of policy.
And what do you think about local little things? Like somebody told me that I could have a water butt. They'd cut into the downpipe in my house. Yeah. I could have a water butt. They could put a tank underneath my garden with a pump in it, and water could be pumped up from underneath my garden up into the tank in the house. And since we get plenty of rain in Ireland, that would make us perhaps even self-sufficient in water. What's your stance on that?
I have actually done quite a number of projects on rainwater harvesting, and that's what the term is. And in Bermuda, that's exactly how they have their water. And in the Aran Islands, where they've very little groundwater, they're very dependent on rainwater. So it's not as if we haven't done this. We did it in the past. We may have to do it again. So yes, no, it's one of the issues is drinking water quality. At the minute, our water in our pipes coming out of our kitchen tap and going into our toilet is drinking water quality. And
do we need drinking water quality to flush our loo?
Well, what do you think?
Well, certainly I don't think so. And if I'm to wash the dishes, I don't think I need to have drinking water quality for washing the dishes.
You do for washing the dishes and even washing your clothes.
And what about in my dishwasher?
In your dishwasher.
Are you against dishwashers?
No, I'm a fan, and actually they're more environmentally friendly, use less water.
And what about washing machines?
I'm a very modern woman. I need my washing machine. But again, they're much more efficient now than they have been in the past. And
but you live near a river. Now, why couldn't... I know it's time-consuming, but why couldn't you go down to the river and beat your clothes?
I could, but Paul, that's the water I drink. The water that we have in Glanmire is from the Glasheboy, and I live near the Glen River, which is a tributary of that, and I wouldn't want to mess up my water.
Richard wants to know, and this I think will be our last question, Shirley.
Can I actually tell you though, about 30 feet from my house I saw an otter about 2 years ago. And it was just quite miraculous. He was I'm presuming it was a male because he was huge, and he got a bigger fright than I did, and he swam way up the river, and it was really quite incredible.
Where was he born?
I don't know, but the river runs at the edge of the housing estate. There's 134 houses in the estate, and I was just quite, they're notoriously shy, and they're on the Habitats Directive as an endangered species. So it was really quite empowering to see one so close to my house. Sorry, your last question.
It's fine. Richard asked a question, and I'm trying to think what on earth did he ask, and I've forgotten what he asked because
on
Periscope, Periscope the question disappears.
Okay.
So Richard, would you mind giving us the question again? Oh, he's about to say, I see. What Richard has to do on Periscope is type in his question now.
Okay.
So no doubt we need a secretary here who will type out the questions while they're being asked.
Okay.
In fact, what most people do on Periscope is they pick the most recent question. So if there's a stream of questions, they only end up doing the last two that appear because it's humanly impossible to remember them. But Richard had some question Oh yes, I know what he said. Richard, I'm sorry, I've just remembered it. Here it is. Oh, here.